No matter how any of the conservative pundits try to explain this, it means only one thing. Sidney Powell has been fired. She is going to take the fall. But should she be the only one fired?
And again, in this boardroom, we've never had a team lose so badly. You're all fired. All four are fired.
Last Thursday, the Trump legal team had a big press conference, went on for over an hour, and they promised bombshells. Now I can tell you, despite the fact that I have been in the ministry 30 plus years, there's a business side to ministry. There really is. Every ministry I've been with has done more than just have a church. We've had schools, we've had other ministries, other outreaches. There's a business aspect to it, a business aspect in how you run the day-to-day affairs, but also in presenting what those ministries do. You have to present the need, the financial need. You have to be able to demonstrate financial accountability so that people have the trust to give, or I guess we could say invest in what you're doing. That said, I remember very early in my ministry, it was something I wanted to do, and I was really excited about it. And as I was talking about it and building it up, an older gentleman in my ministry at that time came to see me quietly, privately, and said, Pastor, I think you're doing a great job. I think this endeavor that you want to take on, I think it's fantastic. Your heart's in the right place. I really believe this could be something big. But he said, it's not big yet. And he said, I don't even think you've got it fully worked out in your head how everything has to be done. So let me give you a little piece of advice. And he was, at that time, 40 plus years my senior. And that was nearly 30 years ago. But I'll never forget what he said. He said, don't promise a banana split and then present a single serve ice cream cone. Now, okay, that's a way oversimplification, but I got it and I understood it. Giuliani and his crew promised bombshells. This was it. We were going to be absolutely rocked and devastated by what we received from that press conference. What we got was some rambling from Rudy, and I know this guy knows his stuff. And of course, the media's had a field day with the fact that he was sweating and his hair dye ran down his face. And he comes across sometimes just incoherent. Then Sidney Powell did her presentation. We're going to take back the republic. And I mean, it was what it was. But it was a lot of allegations. It was a lot of charges. Where was the bombshell? Now, I made the argument last Thursday to a certain degree. You've got to keep your powder dry. You can't present everything so that you give your opponents the opportunity to discredit it. But that said, you can't promise something and then fail to deliver, and then when you receive backlash from it, from even surrogates and supporters like Chris Christie saying that press conference was an absolute embarrassment and now the president needs to concede. You got Rhino Romney out there. The president needs to concede. Here's the issue. Here is the issue. That entire legal team, in my opinion, they need to go. From everything I have been able to find out, no, I do not believe that Sidney Powell is lying. In fact, let's go ahead and walk through the timeline. This initially came out, this Dominion voting systems and its problems, it initially came out not from Sidney Powell, but from Michigan itself.
If all this wasn't enough, in Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity. Antrim County had to hand count all of the ballots, and these counties that use this software need to closely examine their results for similar discrepancies. The people of Michigan deserve a transparent and open process.
Sidney Powell then appeared on a Sunday morning program on Fox News, and she laid out what Dominion voting systems actually was all about.
I've never seen voting machines stop in the middle of an election, stop down and assess the situation. I also see reports that Nancy Pelosi's longtime chief of staff is a key executive at that company. Richard Blum, Senator Feinstein's husband, significant shareholder of the company. What can you tell us about the interest on the other side of this Dominion software?
Well, obviously, they have invested in it for their own reasons and are using it to commit this fraud to steal votes. I think they've even stolen them from other Democrats in their own party who should be outraged about this also. Bernie Sanders might very well have been the Democratic candidate, but they've stolen against whoever they wanted to steal it from. That is where the fraud took place, where they were flipping votes in the computer system or adding votes that did not exist. We need an audit of all of the computer systems that played any role in this fraud whatsoever. And, you know, Joe Biden had it right. He said that he had the biggest voter fraud organization ever, and he didn't need people's votes now. He would need people later. They had this all planned, Maria. They had the algorithms. They had the paper ballots waiting to be inserted if and when needed. And notably, President Trump's vote in the blue states went up enormously. That's when they had to stop the vote count and go in and replace votes for Biden and take away Trump votes.
And just days later, Texas came out and said, you know what, we looked into Dominion voting systems and we were told by our experts, stay away from this software. It is absolutely wretched. Do not use this stuff.
So our Secretary of State and our Attorney General's office, we dispatched 6 experts in electronic data communication systems and election law. They looked at it. The Dominion salespeople were there with their reps to demonstrate it. They wanted to get a big contract from Texas. And every one of our experts, Sean, said, do not buy this system. They found out that they were fragile. They were error prone. They did not meet our standards. They changed ballots. People could vote because we test voted the machines. You could vote and your ballot didn't count. These machines, let's just put it this way. If Dominion were designing software for an airplane, I would not advise you to get on it. These are, in my view, a piece of junk. And we said we cannot have these machines in our state. Furthermore, our experts said these are prone to manipulation and fraud. And in one case, one of our experts, Sean, took their cell phone, hooked it up to a USB port, and were able to download all of the information from that voting machine into their cell phone. These machines were used in Maricopa County. We need a recount. 65 of 83 counties in Michigan. We need all of those to be recounted, and every county in Georgia. And it's not just about the president, Sean. It's also about, very possibly, we'd already have our 51st senator because those votes for Purdue may have miscounted. That's why I put up to $1 million reward this week for any fraud that anyone who presents evidence, Sean, that leads to arrest, conviction. Then we'll pay up to $1 million for those cases, Sean. We have to get this right, not just for this election, but for the future of this country.
Well, then Tucker Carlson, after the Thursday press conference, really wanted to give Sidney Powell the opportunity to come on and make the case because he said this is devastating. In fact, if any of this is true, well, this is the biggest election fraud in history.
What Powell was describing would amount to the single greatest crime in American history. Millions of votes stolen in a day. Democracy destroyed. The end of our centuries-old system of self-government. Not a small thing. Now, to be perfectly clear, we did not dismiss any of it. We don't dismiss anything anymore, particularly when it's related to technology. So that's a long way of saying we took Sidney Powell seriously. We had no intention of fighting with her. We've always respected her work. We simply wanted to see the details. How could you not want to see them? So we invited Sidney Powell on the show. We would have given her the whole hour. We would have given her the entire week, actually, and listened quietly the whole time at rapt attention. That's a big story. But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page. When we kept pressing, she got angry and told us to stop contacting her. When we checked with others around the Trump campaign, people in positions of authority, they told us Powell has never given them any evidence either, nor did she provide any today at the press conference. Powell did say that electronic voting is dangerous, and she's right. We're with her there. But she never demonstrated that a single actual vote was moved illegitimately by software from one candidate to another. Not one.
Well, then Ms. Powell responded back to Tucker Carlson.
All right, Sidney, I want you to respond to what Tucker Carlson said last night, Sidney. I don't know if you watched it, but Tucker Carlson said that he had invited you on his show to share evidence of the software flipping votes, and he said you got angry and refused to provide evidence for your claims of voting software flipping votes. How do you respond to Tucker Carlson? Did you get angry with the show because they texted you and asked you to please provide evidence of what you're alleging?
No, I didn't get angry with the request to provide evidence. In fact, I sent an affidavit to Tucker that I had not even attached to a pleading yet to help him understand the situation, and I offered him another witness who could explain the mathematics and statistical evidence far better than I can. I'm not really a numbers person. But he was very insulting, demanding, and rude, and I told him not to contact me again in those terms.
So Sidney,
So let's be really clear, and I said last week, and I reiterate it because so many conservatives, that was it. They were done with Tucker Carlson, just like they're done with faux pas news, formerly known as Fox News. I've been done with faux pas news for years. I still hold out that Tucker, do I think he's got an ego and he got a fly up his nose that Sidney Powell wasn't giving him what he wanted? Yes, certainly. You know, he's not presenting the full side. She's not presenting the full side. That is what it is. But I still hold out that as far as the on-air people at Fox News, that in the evening, Tucker Carlson really does, I think in the tradition of Bill O'Reilly, he lives up to what the old Fox motto used to be. We report, you decide. And I think Tucker is don't throw him overboard yet. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. That said, I have also received word from, I guess you would call them a couple of insiders, that no, she's not a kook. No, she is for real, and that she knows her stuff, but she may have jumped the shark. And what I mean by that is she's obviously looking at this evidence with Dominion voting systems. You and I find ourselves in situations in times in our lives where we see something, but that doesn't necessarily mean we can prove it. We know what we're seeing. Just like we know we're seeing election fraud. We know it. And there's a fine line between you can know something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have and can put your hands on immediately the concrete evidence that you need to prove it. Because here's the issue when we're talking about a presidential election like this. There is a time frame that we're dealing with here. And time is of the essence. And there are dates and times when things happen. And then when that happens, say a certification like happened in Georgia, then the Trump campaign has 48 hours in which to respond to appeal. So there is a time element here. And I believe Sidney Powell when she says, you know, they're not getting any help really from the Justice Department. You know, they're running down as many of these leads as they can, but, you know, they're having to do the work of litigators and investigators, and that becomes very cumbersome. Because here's what we have to realize. The deep state, and I'm talking about left and right, the military-industrial complex, I'm talking about people that appear to be, quote, on the right. They want this president gone. We can see what happened. Because again, mathematically, it makes no sense that Biden had less turnout in places where Hillary won easily. Biden had far less turnout It was obvious he was getting beat in those districts. So the counting stops for hours, and then magically, when they start counting again, he's up 100,000 votes when he was down by several thousand. I mean, mathematically, it's just, some of this is just absolutely, it's just not plausible. But right now, it's relegated to, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's just a conspiracy theory. And even Giuliani, rolling out, we've had witnesses say this, we've had witnesses say this, and we've got these sworn affidavits, which that's all great. Is it enough to actually persuade a judge to say there was enough of this that actually affected the overall result of the election? Is it enough to turn over what appears to be the decision of the electorate? That's where we're at right now. And Rudy hasn't done a stellar job on his end either. So I don't know what Ms. Powell did in her, was it she got too far out in front, and the evidence hasn't caught up to where she is, though she sees it. And I have to be honest, I'm a person, I see things. It's one of the things I have done in ministry for years. I am more, have a gifting in the way of administration in ministry as well as preaching. And I can go into a ministry that's in trouble and can know in short order what needs to be done to fix it and turn it around. That's kind of my specialty. It's what I do. And there are times that I see things and I'm ready to make it happen like yesterday, but there's a process, and it ain't going to happen tomorrow. It's not even going to happen next week. Sometimes it doesn't happen until next year. And when I was young, I was very impatient on that, and it didn't always work out the way I had hoped. Well, we always managed to get things turned around, but somewhere along the line, you lose some people along the way because, well, you've stepped over them and stepped past their idea, and it's hard sometimes. And I don't know if she sees something, but she hasn't got all the pieces yet to the point where she can prove it in a court of law. Did that make Team Trump and Giuliani a little bit nervous that they were opening themselves up to legal litigation from Dominion voting systems, that they could be sued for libel? Who knows? I am also sure of this. And this I have not had confirmed from anyone inside the Trump campaign, but let's be honest. Rudy's got an ego, and he likes the limelight, and even though it's obvious that as the years have gone by, he's become inept at it. And I'm sorry, that's just the reality. Rudy is still, in my mind, America's mayor. He turned New York City around. He was the AG that stopped organized crime. He was the mayor that cleaned up New York, got it working again, got that economy rocking, and he certainly was on top of his game when it came to the tragedy on 9/11. That said, there comes a point all of us face the inevitable. It's called time, and time does catch up to us. I spent a lot of my life not only in ministry but also in broadcasting, and I can tell in watching or listening to broadcasters who were my heroes, my icons, there's a definite difference in their delivery when they were in their 20s, and then when they're in their 50s, and then when some of them are still at it in their 70s. There's a definite difference. You tend to slow down. The mental sharpness isn't quite there. Hey, think about that, those of you that voted for Joe Biden. And again, the whole legal team, this is where I've got to admit that Chris Christie might be right. This has become embarrassing the way they've gone about this. They have done a disservice to the president. Do I think there was real voter fraud? Absolutely. You see it too. Real voter fraud. Is this team of his, are they handling it the best? That press conference, come on. Why isn't Jay Sekulow the point man on this? Because Rudy's got the president convinced, hey, I'm the guy that can do this. I'm your point man. And by the way, we got to get rid of her. So I think that was the sacrificial lamb. She's going to keep at it. She's not being disloyal to the president. She's going to keep at it through another venue. Now, when the Trump campaign says, well, she never really was part of our legal team. Yeah, you tweeted about it, and yeah, you had her at your big press conference. So now, for whatever reason, they're trying to distance themselves. I think it has to do with legal issues. I think she jumped the shark a little bit. I also think Rudy has an ego, and she upstaged him. And again, you can't lay all of that stuff out and not have, you got to give some kind of proof. Even if it was just a hacker who came in and said, hey, I can hack into the Dominion systems, and this is what I was able to do, and even do a demonstration in front of the reporters. That would have been a wow, a pow, and that would have been huge. They should have brought in a voting machine. They should have shown how easy it is to manipulate it, as they did in Texas. That's exactly what they should have done. Instead, they had egomaniacs up there getting in each other's way and Rudy sweating and drinking water. So unfortunately, the president has lost the optics on this thing, and he's being disserviced. At some point, as I said, the deep state, they have all decided this is it. And this is on the left and the right. Look at what Biden's doing right now in this so-called cabinet that he's putting back together. Why, he's going to put Lurch, John F. Kerry, in charge of climate control. You and I are never going to be able to afford a gallon of gas again, or any other energy again, if this election sticks the way it is and Biden actually gets to take the oath of office. What's going to happen with his policies and the people that he is assembling? But it's like, hey, the gang's all here again. It is the deep state status quo back in charge. And that's what they wanted. And so the president is not only fighting, quote, Democrats and the media. He's fighting people of his own party. He's fighting the deep state. He's got some Republicans just kind of patting him on the head saying, well, he's got the right to fight this, but it's inevitable. Why is it inevitable? Is it inevitable because there really was no fraud, no cheating? Or it's inevitable because this is so deep and it's so protected now? Remember, it took us over 3 years to finally expose that the whole Russian collusion was exactly what Trump said it was on day one. I'm being spied on by the Obama people and by Hillary and by the FBI. Oh, no, you're delusional. And he turned out to be absolutely right. But it took 3 years for all of that to come out. And unfortunately, constitutionally speaking, we don't have 3 years to litigate the fraud of this election. So whatever the Trump legal team is going to do, they have to do it quickly, and they've got to do it effectively. But ultimately, let's remember, the deep state doesn't want Trump. But every once in a while, God does like to flip the switch and flip the script and just turn the experts on their ear. Could that still happen? Absolutely. And I think the president needs to be given the latitude to explore all of his legal options. But he might want to assemble a team of lawyers who are real killers and can get the job done. Hey, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Give us a thumbs up and a like. Share this video to your social media platforms. Smack the bell and click the word all to get notification of my next rant.